Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And this day, we have a big treat. We have the growth guru himself, Verne Harnish, best-selling author of ScaleUp, Rockefellers, and the most recent book, which we're going to talk about today, Scaling Up Compensation, 5 Design Principles for Turning Your Largest Expense into a Strategic Advantage. What better time to talk about it than now? You know, all the lawyers that I've been talking to, they're having problems getting people to pay them enough and to hold them. You know, we got the Great Resignation. So Verne is going to enlighten us. And I've read this book and it's fabulous. So you want to stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about that. And I also want to let you know that as another special treat, Verne is going to be our keynote speaker on June 28th. And it's June 27th through to June 29th. The 12th or 13th, I think it's the 13th, Pilma Super Summit, where we're going to have him and 26 other speakers share the secrets of how to take your law firm to the next level. You know, how to really grow your law firm, be more efficient, you know, live the life you want and make more profits. And that's what it's all about, right? Serving the clients and yet run it like a business so you can live, so you can work, the law firm can work for you instead of you working for it. That's what we all want. So thank you, Verne, so much for being here today. It's an honor, and it's a treat. Thank you.
Well, Ken, it's always a pleasure to spend some time chatting with you. And you know what? I think the other people picked it up. I think you were going to say the GOAT. You started to say the GOAT. And you know what? I'm going to claim GOAT status. And I got to tell you, I love that whole Disney commercial that they did on the Super Bowl with all the GOATs. And so, greatest of all time, I'll accept the honor for sure.
You know, I'm kind of a goat. I mean, you know, I'm older than you, Verne. I mean, I'm getting way up there. I just got on Medicare. I spent all yesterday morning going through Medicare, going through insurance, and asking all those questions about everything in my life. It was very fun.
Yeah. Well, I just turned 50 about a baker dozen years ago.
Well, great. So before we get in there, I got something I want to ask you about, because some of our Pilma members are using this traction. And, you know, I'm a certified scaling up coach. I got trained under you and your people, and I just love it. And that's what I teach. I mean, I gave a seminar or whatever at the National Trial Lawyers on the 7 levels of cash and how it applied to contingency law firms. They loved it. Yeah. You know, I showed them where 1 + 1 + 1 equals 19, that deal. And I blew their mind, and it was fun. It was fun, but those are the type of things that you learn in scaling up that, you know, it'll be with me for my life, and I can share it with other lawyers, and it's enriching for me. I don't know. But the question I have is the Wickman's, what do they call it?
Traction, or it's
traction.
Yeah, and you and I, you know, getting ready for this, you said, hey, Verne, do you even want to go there? You know, would this be glorifying your competitor and all that stuff? And I think it's a great general lesson for all the law firms. What's that line that you use? Answer the question. What is it?
Enter the conversation that's on people's mind. Because if you can do that, then you can get, you know, try to figure out, that's where you want to go.
So I happened to, you know, I'm always learning as well. And I had a chance to meet Marcus Sheridan a couple of years ago. He wrote a book called They Ask, You Answer. And by the way, the guy went from installing some fiberglass swimming pools to being the largest manufacturer and distributor of fiberglass swimming pools in the world. And one of the keys he did is he said, you know what? Customers have 5 questions. And if you are the one willing to answer them, then you can control the ink. But there are 5 questions that most of us shy away from because we don't want to go there. We don't want to glorify our competitors. And one of those is, so how does fiberglass swimming pools compare with concrete? swimming pools. And the fiberglass guys are like, I don't even want to go there. I don't want to even glorify concrete, but it is a question the customer has. And so Sheridan wrote a very thoughtful response to that. And it became like one of the most downloaded white papers on the internet because people were searching, all right, how does concrete compare with fiberglass? And he was popping up on the search engines. And so I went out and just said, all right, who's searching for EOS versus scaling up? First of all, I found out a lot of people have that question. Number two, some people smarter than me, including one of our scaling up coaches, had posted their answer to that question, and they were beating us in search engine optimization. So we sat down, and the thing I would encourage is just Google EOS versus scaling up. And we should pop number one as the article that I've written, and I've given a very thoughtful and I think objective look at and comparing the two systems. The short of it is, I don't think a lot of people realize, but Gino was actually a client of ours. So he scaled his business using our Rockefeller habits. It was so successful, then he became one of our first coaching partners. So he was Ken, a coaching partner of ours, and used our tools exclusively to coach companies. And then, you know what, in the entrepreneurial world, your people will leave and start up their competitive thing. And you know what, if you totaled up all the business we're doing, we're all scratching the surface. And I didn't really mind until Gino, for marketing purposes, started to dumb down the system in the name of simplicity. And what happened is he made it simplistic. So look, it's better than nothing by far, do something, but you're going to leave a lot of money and time on the table in the same year that you would spend. And it's a very rigid, it's now a franchise, got bought by a PE firm. They just turned it into a franchise. The implementers aren't allowed to vary 1 degree from a script. So if you want to address cash, first of all, they don't even really address that issue, but it might be a year later. Because if it's not in the sequence, then they're not going to go there. So they have no flexibility. They don't use any other outside tools or resources or thoughts. And they've left out some of the most important components in the name of simplification that, again, leave a lot of time and money on the table. So folks can look at it. One other thing I would, as a side note, they have language matters, Ken. The words that we use. One of those is, I think it's important that we're clear. How do we refer to our employees? Are they team members? Are they employees? I thought it was interesting, an announcement today by Facebook or Meta, they have decided now to rename their employees MetaMates. And it might seem cheesy, but you know what? That's what culture is about. Our partner, John Ratliff, who he didn't call them call center agents, he called them experts. And that really set an important stage. I'm vice chairman of the Riordan Clinic. We don't call them patients, we call them co-learners. We're here to co-learn together to stay healthy. And so the language you use is important. So as you know, in EOS, they have this language where they say you should have two people, a visionary and an integrator. And I don't know about you, but I hope none of the lawyers listening to this are going back to their team and exclaiming that they're a visionary. I think that's a little creepy. Maybe Steve Jobs could get by with it, maybe some deity, but to go call myself a visionary is a little weird. Instead, what you really do as your leader of the law firm is what Michael Porter says the number one job of the leader. And so did Hubert Joly, whose book I named number one last year at 200 Round Best Buy. Your job is to be the strategist. You set strategy, you set marketing strategy, or you're the final say, pricing strategy, compensation strategy, which we're going to talk about. And vision is a piece of strategy, but you're the strategist. And your number two, the term integrator, if you Google it, just say Google image integrator, you're going to see you integrate things. You don't integrate people. And so we use the term, as you know, Ken, orchestrator. And that's really the kind of the Ben Zander example of let's just orchestrate what's going on here. So we use terms strategist and orchestrator, which we think is much better technically and is better for people. And that's why, we like to think that we've taken this to another level of thoughtfulness versus just throwing out some cute phrases. So take a look at that article, EOS versus scaling up.
Thank you. And I appreciate you doing that, because I got a lot of people ask me. And, I've only been a scaling up coach for about a year and a half now. So, I've still got some, I got to get some age on me on this part of my life too. But I really want to talk about this, the 5 principles for effective compensation design. And I'm just going to let you go, man. I'm not going to try to, I'm going to listen and take notes, because I want to learn.
Yeah. Well, I'm almost half tempted to pull up my PowerPoint. Do you want me to be that formal, or you want to just chat about it? Well, you know what? Let's really teach. That's what we like to do. So I just happened to deliver this. Wait, no, I thought I had it pulled up. Let me just pull it up real quick. I just gave it yesterday to YPO Montreal. Your coaching partners up there, Cleo and Sean.
Right.
All right. So let me share the screen, and here it is. So let me just take folks through it real quick.
Okay.
And first, I thought, just for fun anyway, I love this kind of Stoic, Seneca, Roman philosophy guru. And this quote: whatever happens in 2022, don't stumble over something behind you. And I want to say it again, don't stumble over something behind you. And I think it's a good thing to do at the beginning of the year, is to write down the things that you need to let go of. And that sounds easier than you can imagine, but it does no good to drag the past forward. Number 2, I think Andy Grove was right. More companies die from indigestion than starvation. And I do think we're in for the go-go years. If history repeats itself, we had the roaring 20s after the last pandemic. So what does that mean? Supply chain challenges, which we're having just for paper. I couldn't even get the book, Ken, in print. It's only available as an ebook right now because of that. For the law firms, this great resignation, this talent, this war for talent, that if you're really growing rapidly can constrain you considerably. And so I think there's more risk with scaling too fast, which is what we could really be facing with the opportunities, which means we really have to go back to the fundamentals. And I love the great Vince Lombardi. He come off 5 winning seasons. I didn't care if he had returning seniors. He would always start out with, this is a football. And I think what's interesting, I don't know about you, but I've been glued to the screen for the Winter Olympics as well as the Summer Olympics. And the difference is hundredths of a second, whether you make it or not onto the podium. And so it really is 100 little things. And going back to US, the fact that they've cleaned out about half of that stuff means, you might get to the Olympics, but I don't think you're going to get on the podium. And if you're going to do this, let's get on the podium. And so part of that is really being thoughtful about compensation. And I want to frame it, compensation, Ken, we see as a lot like pricing, but internally. And for all the reasons and mistakes we make in pricing, I see we make equally internally with compensation. And the reason they're 2 sides of the same coin is that we're dealing with people. We sell to people and we compensate people. And the one thing we know is humans are not logical, they are psychological. And you've got to understand the psychology of pricing to get it right, as much as trying to bring logic, and the same with compensation. And look, here's where we start. This is kind of auspicious. The definition is something typically money awarded to someone, right, as recompense for loss, injury, or suffering. I mean, this is the personal injury law firm space, a la seeking compensation for injuries suffered at work. And the reality is, a lot of us, if we're honest, we see compensation as what we've got to do to bribe people, to show up, to do some of the stuff that we make folks do. And look, culture is a big part of what we teach, and making things easy and making sure the employees feel cared for, including how you refer to them in the organization. But compensation is a part of this, and getting it right is important. So I'm going to skip this. We tell a story about McKeel Hagerty and why he went public, but he mainly went public to be able to give his employees pay raises. And I do think what's interesting is we've got several legal clients in Australia, which is the one country that allows law firms to be public. In fact, our client was the first law firm to go public. And what's interesting is it allows the public to give your people pay raises. And I think what's interesting is, if I'll skip this, we saw Harley Davidson last year make a decision to grant equity to all 4,500 of their frontline employees. And Bank of America last Thursday said, all right, we're going to give stock to all of our employees as well as a way to retain them. Now, here's where us mere mortals can learn from this, and we'll get into the detail. Bank of America in 2021 gave on average $750 bonuses to their bank tellers or frontline employees. And so it's a lot of money given their number of employees, but it was about $750. You know what they discovered? It didn't do anything. It wasn't enough to retain anybody or motivate anybody or any of that stuff. It really is just kind of seen as an entitlement. And so why would you just give money away if you're not really getting anything in return? And that's what the research is clear on when we did it around individual, particularly short-term bonuses. Instead, what they did is they said, all right, we're going to grant a frontline employee $2,900 in stock, which would be, by the way, 4 years at $750, roughly. That'd be $3,000. But we're going to vest it over 4 years. We're going to see Allied Printing. I'll mention them for a moment. They give annual bonuses, but they only give 50% of the bonus. They vest the other 50% over 7 years. So what does that mean? The great godfather of influence, Dr. Robert Cialdini, said, look, people do more to avoid a loss than to get a gain. Let's say it again. People do more to avoid a loss than to get a gain. And so, for instance, if you are comparing your law firm with another law firm, you don't want to detail all the things they're going to get, the benefits of dealing with you versus someone else. What you want to do instead is list everything they're going to lose, including their lawsuit, if they go with the other firm. So you want to make the list not of benefits, but of losses. And so the same thing here. Bank of America is betting that employees are going to think twice, and it ranges from $2,900 of stock to $27,000, 60 shares to 600 shares that vests over 4 years. They're betting that employees are going to think twice, leaving that amount of money on the table to join another firm. And that's the same with Allied Printing. By taking 50% of the bonus, annual bonus, and vesting it over the next 7 years, every year an employee is there, the pots of money, the pots of gold that are out 7 years are growing. And I'm going to think twice, leaving all that money on the table before I leave. And so this is part of the psychology of setting compensation. We also know that compensation really is a proxy for people's self-worth. And that's why it's so emotionally charged decision. And that's why you need to be thoughtful about it. And as I already mentioned, what makes it difficult is because we're dealing with people, and they are not logical. They are psychological, as I just shared. And to that point, London Economics School did this piece of research. And in essence, would you rather make 50 where the median's 30 or 100 where it's 125? And there's the key, that last sentence, where prices are the same. Now, I'm not saying all human beings are irrational, but 46% of people preferred making half as much, 50, where at least they were king, they assumed they were on the top of the pile, than making twice as much. This is how crazy people get around compensation. And we set these 5 design principles on 2 foundational ideas. The first is that everyone thinks compensation is this conversation, this negotiation between the employer and the employee. But you're missing a very important third relationship in that triangle, and that is the customer. The real role of the comp system is to incentivize the exact behaviors in your people that customers value, that are going to get customers to actually reach in their wallets and to do business with you. So that's foundational idea number one. Number two, look, at the end of the day, you just want to get it right and out of sight. Look, you're chief energy officers as the head of your law firm. And look, time's limited, but energy's unlimited. And it starts with you and the energy you bring. And you've got to be clear that every decision you make, you have to put through a filter. Is this going to add energy to the organization or take it away? Is this going to be an upper or a downer? Is it which color pill is it going to be? And what's sad is your single largest expense can end up being a downer, creating all kinds of drama inside the organization. So ultimately, what you want to do is just get it right and get it off the table so you can move on, and with all the other kind of stuff that's necessary in order to scale and grow the practice. Now, we did provide some structure to it. We start at the individual base level, individual incentives, then more gamification of the gains. And then ultimately, you've got the broader group sharing of profit and bonuses. And overarching is that you've got to be different. So that's where we're going to get started. Here's what we know is true about strategy. You're the strategist, is that you need to be different. You can't say you're different if you price the same. You can't say you're different if you hire the same people. You can't say you're different if you generally go about it the same way everyone else does. You want to be the Southwest Airlines of your industry. By the way, they're so different in pricing, they actually sub-branded it, transparency. Little side note, one of the things we'll talk about when we're together in person is the importance of sub-branding how you do what you do. Product companies, they brand everything. There's a name for every part, every screw that would go into that part. But professional services firms, we don't brand anything. For instance, I'm known for Rockefeller Habits, and Rockefeller Habits is a better brand than my name. It's better brand than even the name of my company in some sense. It's why I'm bringing that book back after 20 years. I made a mistake letting go of that brand. And the importance of you branding your onboarding process, branding your service delivery process, branding your approach, to in the courtroom, whatever it is, sub-branding it is a way to really build brand in a marketplace. But I'm going to give you much more, better examples. But to Southwest Airlines' point, they branded it transparency to emphasize that we don't have any baggage fees and there's no change fees. Now, some of the airlines copied that in the pandemic. We'll see if that holds. And if you're looking at hiring people, that starts with hiring strange people. And I'll share the book that we recommend. So just to give you a flavor of how strange can be, we actually open with Lincoln Electric in the book. They're not Facebook or Google. They make welding equipment. But what's draconian is this is truly a place where you only make what you produce. You eat what you kill. If you're out sick, you don't get paid. If you're on vacation, you don't get paid. If you want to make more, work 2 shifts and get more done in the shift that you've got. And if you make a mistake, it's coming out of your pay. It is draconian, but it aligns with 2 things. The customer wants the highest quality welded equipment they could find, and they have for 125 years, and they want it at a great price. Now, this would be the most probably socially unacceptable example, given the age that we're in right now, but it works brilliantly at Lincoln Electric. And they're not trying to attract all 7.8 billion people to work for them. They just need several hundred who are willing to say, look, I'm made for that environment. And by the way, if you're good, you can make 6 figures plus as a blue collar worker at this organization. And as a result, they have scaled very successfully. Would I recommend anybody copy this? No. And that's part of the key here is, you're going to be at Ken's meeting and you're going to be talking with some of the other law firms. That's part of what's great about these meetings is that's where you really pick up a lot of great stuff. And then you hear about one of your fellow law firms, comp plan. And you'll say, that's a great idea. And you run back and you put it in your organization. It really has to be specific to you and your culture and make you different. So I want to go on the other side of the planet. City Bin, they haul trash. And their problem was in delivering great customer service, it was really dependent. And you know that in your own business, law firm, a lot of it's dependent on that support staff and what a good job they do, whether you're effective, whether lawyers are effective or not. Well, same in City Bin, it comes down to the person on the back of the garbage truck. They call him a driver assistant. And Gene could not find and keep these people. So he thought he was just going to have to double the wages to bribe somebody to put up with such a bad job, until he read this book, Change to Strange, by Daniel Cable, Create a Great Organization by Building a Strange Workforce. And he goes back and he says, do we have any weirdo? And that's what you really want to do. You want to hire an organization of weirdos. It's kind of the Ocean's 11 team, where you bring it back and we're going to go rob a bank. And he said, do we have anybody who loves this job? And they go, yeah, we got this weirdo, Gary Minogue, who's training to be a super welterweight kickboxing champion. And he loves to work out, get paid to work out. And it gives Gene an idea. And one of the things we'll talk about when we're together physically is finding a fishing hole where you can fish, a consistent place where you can grab talent. And generally, it's not from other law firms, because not only do you have to train them, you have to retrain them in your way. And it's one of the reasons why Toyota doesn't hire anyone who ever worked for another automotive manufacturer, because they don't want to have to retrain you. And so you want to find a strange fishing hole. And for Gene, it was gymnasiums, gyms all throughout Ireland, where he put this flyer. And the rest is history. Ideal for athletes. Do these driver assistants want the bins to be lighter or heavier, to the truck to go slower or faster, the weather to be good or bad? No, bring it on, right? The Rocky Balboa moment. And as a result, by solving this problem, Gene was able to scale from 60 to 1,600 employees. But it wasn't going to happen if he didn't fix this constraint. And the good news is he didn't have to pay these driver's assistants anymore. They would have almost paid to have the job. And that's when you get strategic. And then we look at the Container Store out of Dallas. And look, you think you may have a hard time attracting, retaining talent. Retail has been devastated by the pandemic. But I think what's been brilliant about the Container Store is they have what's called a good job strategy. And it comes out of the conscious capitalism movement. And basically, it comes down to this decision. Would you rather have a lot less, better paid, smart people? Or would you like to have a whole lot of less paid, dumb people? Which would you rather lead in the organization? And the Container Store early on said, look, we know that one great person can really do the work of three. And that, by the way, is backed up with research. Every staff person you have, every lawyer, every person you have in your law firm, you've seen it. One of your people can run circles around two or three of the others. So why not just go get the great? But you better compensate. And so Container Store made a decision early on, no commissions, because that would mean we would fight over customers. Even Nordstrom, known for great customer service, when you go to check out, the first thing they ask you is who helped you, so they can pass on the commission. There isn't a penny of that at the Container Store, because you want the best person who they can find to help you with your question. So what do they do instead? They just pay people twice as much. You can make twice as much working at the Container Store hourly than you can in almost any other retailer, and something considerably greater than minimum wage forever. But if you truly have great people that are 3 times better, but you're only paying twice as much, here's the key. It is not what you pay people. It is your labor cost per dollar of revenue, labor cost per gross margin dollar, labor cost per however you want to calculate productivity. You just want to have a lower total labor cost per dollar of revenue. And who cares what you pay people? Particularly if then the other key to their success, 265 hours of training the first year. And so the only way you're going to have this kind of productivity is by investing in training and development. And those two go hand in hand that have allowed the Container Store to dominate their space. So that's number one. Number two, and I hope you like the kind of legal almost representation here by this image. But principle number two is fairness, not sameness. Said another way, there is nothing more unequal than the equal treatment of unequals. And this is what gets you in more trouble inside the firm. Because the reality is, if you've got three people in the same position and you know they're not all producing at the same level and the same amount, to pay them the same is not fair. And Bill Gates is famous for saying, hey, the right programmer can replace 10,000. It was one of the reasons why he was so hands-on in hiring programmers, up until he recently retired, because they're that critical. And so let's take a look at some of this. And we used a professional services firm, more like your firm, as an example here in the book. They're radiologists, about 350 total employees. They work out of Bondi Beach, Australia, reading x-rays for European hospitals at night. Companies based in Barcelona. And my co-author, serial entrepreneur, investor, invested in TMC, helped choose Alex as the new CEO. And at one of the board meetings, Alex said, what you can read there, that he would struggle justifying really how he set comp, because, as you grow the firm, you just kind of piece things together. You're cutting deals, right? Hey, I want to keep this person. You pull them aside and you cut some deal, with them, and you hope they don't tell anybody else inside the organization. And you end up with this mess. And so in the book, we detail how they particularly structured the base salary. And here's the key. Starting at base salary, because we want to drive flat organizations. If the only way people feel like they can make more money, the only reason people really say, I want a career path, and we see that in the research, hey, give me a career path. That is just a code word or code phrase for how am I going to make more money around here? And if the only way they make more money is to move up, then you're going to end up building all these layers that add about a third to your comp plan. And nobody needs that middle much anymore. This is what manages people, our phone, not people. And that's what our big event next Tuesday is about, around the nature of business. So what you want to do is you want to have pay bands that are at least 2x wide. So I want to take you back to Allied Printing. Their customer service reps start at 48,000 and can progress through 5 KPIs to twice as much, 96. Project managers of printing jobs, just like you would have folks leading, managing cases. They start at 68,000 and can make up to 140,000. And their salespeople start at 60 and can make 600,000. There's a 10x difference within the same pay band. Now, how could that be? Well, the analogy I like to use is sports. Do all quarterbacks make the same? Do all right tackles? Do all defensive linemen? Do all, they don't. And you don't expect them to. And their information's public knowledge. But the sport has gotten very clear of how to measure what performance drives results. That was the whole idea of Moneyball, and Billy Beane bringing data analytics in to sport. Now, every sports team has a data analytics department. And so that's what they got very clear with at TMC. Even as a radiologist, you could consider almost twice as much as another radiologist if you went through 5 gates. It's like the quarterback efficiency rating, which has become pretty accurate in determining whether a quarterback ought to be paid more money or not. And the quarterback efficiency rating is 5 raw stats, like completions, crunched into 4 ratios that collapse into a unitless number, like 138 versus 118. I don't know what it was in the final of the Super Bowl. And so start with wide pay bands. Number 2, I don't know how many of you have 401k plans, but our client Heath Ceramics, Sausalito, California, 120 employees. They had a 401k matching program, which they thought made sense. It would match whatever the employees would put in the system. The problem is they didn't realize it was fair. The senior leadership could put in a lot more and therefore got a bigger piece of the pie than the frontline employees who are maybe living paycheck to paycheck. And so they took that same pot of money and they said, let's take 50% of it, but we're going to divide it by 120. Everybody gets an equal piece. You top executives, you're free to put a lot more in if you want to shelter it. But we actually think it's more fair to do this. And then they took the other 50% of the pot of money that they normally spent on their 401k matching, and they gave the front line pay raises from $16 to $20 an hour. And they reasoned as a senior leadership team, man, if we don't have those people, we can't do our jobs. And you'll read in the book the kind of outcomes and results they were able to achieve. They didn't spend a penny more, but they took that same pot of money and they used it differently in order to attract, retain, and drive results within the organization. And then last, I don't think you've got any employees that would be like Chula, but one of the things they did is they realized that a day's work deserves a day's pay. And you have to realize with some of your frontline employees, maybe those that are working, in the true frontline, your receptionists and others, that if you're paying them once every 2 weeks, you're really scaling on the back of their cash. And so it's a conscious capitalism kind of thing, but Chula has it as an option that their employees can be paid daily. So they're not spending any more on payroll, but the fact that they can pay the employees daily, there's all kinds of services. They use a service I think called Pay Active that they've sprung up in order to provide this, has really made a big difference of their ability to attract and retain talent. So it's just an example. We have a lot more in each one of the chapters, but it's this idea that maybe you need to think more deeply about how you pay people more fairly. Number 3, where we do have a reticence is around individual carrots. Be easy on the carrots. Part of it is that, look, I don't think it's just executives. I think most people think they're in the top 10% of performers. And here's part of the reality too. If you've got these kind of internal compensation contests, whoever's the number one is going to get a significant, chunk of change. It actually is very demoralizing to the other 90 who know they are never going to win. I mean, it's going to the Olympics. Honestly, 99% of the Olympians know they don't have a chance to get on the podium. Their job, they're going to achieve personal best. And that's really your job, is to help everyone in the organization achieve personal best every week. And so let's take a look at this individual bonus thing. And first of all, let me just make a general statement. If you are paying bonuses, and we're in favor of those across the organization, kind of a group share, don't pay them quarterly. I just had a friend of mine that called me up and say, hey, I'm getting all kinds of pressure from my team to pay our annual bonus quarterly. What happens if you start paying it quarterly is it starts feeling like part of their regular pay. And it's now really expected. And so if the bonus is really tied to performance of the firm and you guys have a rough quarter, it ends up being a real, again, downer inside the organization. So at a minimum, only pay bonuses once a year and sometime after the end of the year. And then I love, again, what Allied does by taking 50% of it and spreading it out over the next several years. So it really drives retention. So let's look at really what are the 3 reasons to have financial incentives. First, what we call the selection effect. Hey, do I want to work there? And the fact that Chula pays daily instead of weekly or bi-weekly. The fact they've got better hours, which, by the way, saves them compensation. They close at 8 instead of 10 o'clock, and they just figure customers are going to get their takeout sooner, and that way their employees can go home earlier, and it saves 2 hours of labor. By the way, they saw no dip in revenue. Those kind of things have gotten people to raise their hand and say, hey, I want to work there. Number 2 is really what we call the information effect, to signal what is important, particularly by the customer. What's interesting is the third effect, the motivation effect to get people to try harder, is the least effective. Again, the motivation effect to comp is about a day and a half. Scientifically, it's probably even less. That you get excitement for a few minutes, even winning the gold medal. And what's tough is the letdown the next day, in the next few days. And so with that, I want to take you to an interesting professional services firm that really runs counter to almost all the rest of our professional services firms. They are the number one private executive search firm in the world, 60 offices. And that's an industry that you really do eat what you kill. If you place an executive, you're going to get a big piece of the commission on that. And part of it's going to go to your office. And there's often real competition between offices. But what does the customer want? Again, you want to start with the customer. The customer, Fortune 500 global companies, they want you to find them the best candidate wherever they are in the world. And as a result, what you don't want is one of your offices hoarding a good client. Hey, I want to place them so we don't have to share the commission on it. Or one of your executive search, agent. You don't want them hoarding a really great client. We want all of our 400, search professionals to be willing to share candidates wherever the client might be in the world and whatever office it might benefit. There is no competition between the offices. And as a result, how's their comp set? It is a very generous base pay that increases by longevity. Because the second thing these Fortune 500 want is they want the person that you've assigned to them to be there forever. They have had the same person serve a client for decades. And in fact, they often brag that they've got a longer tenure than some of the executives that they've placed at that Fortune 500. Because you don't have to reteach somebody your culture and all of that goes into great executive search. And when it comes then to the system-wide bonus plan, it is divided by, again, your longevity. So you get a bigger piece the more years you're there. And so their comp plan reinforces the two things the customer most wants. It's an information effect. That is, find us the best client. We're all going to help everybody. No competition among any of us. They have some friendly competition, but nothing that really affects comp. And number two, we're going to reward for longevity. Back to the city bin, a mistake that Gene made in his first quarterly theme is they'd managed to generate an extra $120,000 in profit over 3 months. That was going to give him an extra $500,000 for the year. And he said, you know what? I really feel like I should share a little bit of the winnings in that first quarter. So he took 40,000 of the 120, spent 10 on a party, which we absolutely encourage. Take some of that money and have fun with it. People are going to remember the experience more than the dollars, the few dollars. But then he made the big mistake. He took the other 30,000 divided by the 60 employees he had at the time and gave everybody a spot €500 bonus. He'll never do that again, because that's enough for people to say, hey, that's like $150 a month. I could go get my daughter a new used car. I don't mind $50 like Greg Brenneman used to turn around Continental Airlines. Nobody's going to change their lifestyle for an extra $50. But 500, what happened is the next quarter, they set a different theme that didn't involve a financial share, and it ended up being a downer. It turned into an entitlement, into an expectation, and that's what you want to avoid. So what do you do instead? And this is what Gene's doing instead, principle number 4. And we've all learned from the industry that understands human behavior better than all the other industries combined, and that is the gaming industry. And why is it that we struggle with people going on break and coming back, maybe, or working late hours or pulling an all-nighter? Go into a casino. If people could pee right there at the machine, they would. They don't want to leave. They're on a run. Their slots maybe going to hit, they think, and they'll do it all night. You don't have to. And are they getting paid? No. Nobody gets paid. Ultimately, they're putting money in that machine. It's going the wrong way. So why is it? It's because of this dopamine effect. It's the thrill of not knowing the amount of the frequency. It's the surprise that makes it so thrilling. So I'll give you two examples and then we'll kind of wrap up here with a final. I want to take you down under to Brisbane, Australia, Mini Movers, Mike O'Hagan. What are the two things a customer wants if you're going to move their furniture? Well, number two is be on time. But ahead of that is, I don't want a scratch. I don't want a mark on any of my stuff. Now, how does the industry deal with that? Because it's going to happen. Well, they have insurance. And that insurance runs about 3% of revenue, is pretty standard in the industry. Well, Mike said, wait a second. Why am I paying that to the insurance firms? What if I paid that to the teams? And each move was like a game. You know, it's this weekend's game. And what we're going to do is this team that's going to make that move, if there's any marks on that furniture the customer is upset with, it's going to come out of that pot of money. We're going to pay that team 3% of the revenue of that move. And any marks are going to come out of that 3%. And if there's not enough there, it's going to come out of your pay. But if you don't make a mark, that 3% across all the moves a particular team might do in a year adds an extra 4,000 Aussie dollars a year. Now, that is enough additional pay to differentiate them from other moving companies. So there's a selection effect. And more importantly, way before the customer is going to get upset, way before the boss is going to get upset, they're going to discipline each other. They're going to hold each other accountable. One thing we know is that peers are willing to work harder for each other than they are the boss. They learn more from each other than the boss. Let's just be straight about it. It's the truth. You know, the research is clear. And so they self-manage. And as a result, they deliver, this is the information effect, exactly what the customer wants. Furniture without a mark. The movers are making 4,000 more a year. Everybody wins with this kind of compensation plan. One last example, I got called in decades ago into Home Shopping Network, and they have call centers. And a lot of you have folks answering the phone or use call centers to, kind of screen opportunities and the like. And they just wanted the agent to do a little upselling. If the customer orders a necklace, could you just ask? You don't even have to ask nicely. Just let the customer know there's a matching bracelet. And the odds are we'll sell a lot more, but they couldn't get an agent to ask that question. Why? Because they're humans. I don't know if any of you have an animal, a dog, and you have an invisible fence. All that dog has to do is get shocked about once, and it's not happening again. It's pretty amazing how quick they learn. And humans are a little bit sharper than dogs. And so what happened is all they had to do is get yelled at by one customer at 2 a.m. who said, look, if I wanted the effing matching bracelet, I would have asked for it. Just get my order done. I want to go to sleep. And the spiff was 25 cents. It was a fixed amount for every upsell. So here's what we did. We took the millions of dollars that they had set aside to try to bribe their people to upsell, and we gamified it. We said, instead of you getting a consistent spiff, you're going to get a chance. You're going to earn a chance for every upsell for hourly drawings for movie tickets, daily drawings for dinners for two, weekly drawings to win golf clubs and flat screen TVs. And we had enough money, we could give a car away every month. We actually parked a car out in front of the call center like you would see at a casino. And the 2,500 would walk by. And now here's what they're thinking. I don't care how much you yell at me. If I upsell you, I'm getting a chance to win a car. Now, only 12 people are going to win a car in a year out of 2,500, but it doesn't matter. Humans are not rational. They are irrational. So the result, we didn't increase upselling 2% or 20%. We increased upselling 250%. And if we had promised that, they never even would have hired us. They would have thought we were crazy. Same pile of money used in kind of a gamified way. And so, before I finish up on this thing, I had a client, about 60 employees. he was giving out, he'd set aside about $60,000 a year in kind of bonuses, $1,000 an employee, sort of about the amount that Bank of America was giving out last year to their employees. And like Bank of America, he was getting no bang for his buck. So we convinced him instead to do this. Take the $5,000 a month and have a meeting once a month where you're going to share the numbers and celebrate. And everybody who hits their key performance indicator is going to get a chance in this bingo wheel. By the way, if you exceed it, you're going to get 2 chances. And we're going to then, once a month, start giving stuff away. Dinners for 2, movie tickets, flat screen TVs, golf clubs. And they would spend $2,000 of the $5,000 on prizes. Fun, kind of exciting stuff. Then there was a final drawing for a $3,000 cash prize. And the one month I was there, because I was there for the quarterly planning, they're doing the drawing, and it was a guy in the warehouse who won the $3,000. And the other 4 people in the warehouse started jumping up and down and screaming. Why? Because just like the lottery, they had agreed to say, look, let's support each other in hitting our numbers, and let's exceed them. So not only do we get 5 chances, we get 10 chances in that wheel. And if any of us wins the $3,000, we're going to agree to share it. Now, the owner pulls me aside and said, Verne, I've been trying to get that bunch to cooperate for years. I could have put them through a 2-week-long team building program, and it wouldn't have had the same effect as this kind of lottery that we created. This is exactly what Gene Brown has moved to today, giving €1,000 away a week. So about 52,000 a year. If individuals hit their numbers and the company hits theirs that week, then they have a drawing and somebody gets 1,000. And then they have MVPs and the like. Last, we think sharing is caring. Broader kind of bonus sharing plan. I'm just checking the timing here, Ken. We got about 3 minutes. And I want to come back to a guy who's got 7 employees. I know we've got some small firms here. And look, Steve, he's not delusional that anyone's going to work harder because of this extra check they're going to see. Notice sometime next year, he's not paying it out quarterly, but they are going to take different decisions. And we do think there is benefit in getting all your employees to think like owners. And so just 2 examples. And by the way, this bonus that they can achieve if the company hits numbers, it's a profit sharing plan, represents about a 15 to 20% boost in their total compensation. It's a significant chunk of change. And so they take it serious. Just 2 examples. They were going to a lot of trade shows, and his employees really saw it as a boondoggle, a chance for the company to pay for me to go to Vegas, wine and dine with the customers, until they went to this profit sharing. And then the employees came to Steve, said, Steve, I really think there's only 2 trade shows that are worthwhile, and we don't need to wine and dine. He said, they made the decision, not me. If I had taken that away, I would have been the bad guy. It would have been a downer. Number 2, they've been able to double their revenue with the same number of people, because before they start screaming for help, they know if we add another employee, that's going to make a smaller piece for each of them. Now, at the same time, they've not been ridiculous. They recently hired somebody, and they calculated that person was going to add more to the bottom line than their salary. And so they're more thoughtful than you would think. And it's taken a lot of the heat off of Steve. That was really the idea behind Jack Stack's Great Game of Business. And so we've really timed these last 2 ideas, gamifying the business and being willing to share kind of some small pots of gamification along the way, and a nice size bonus at the end, so long as you're thoughtful about how to share it in a fair way versus same way. We can skip the last. And so in summary, there's really 5 design principles. Do it different, be fair, be careful about these short-term bonuses. If they're too big, they can start to feel like entitlements. Do take these pots of money though and have some fun with it. You're going to get a lot bigger bang for the buck. And the longer term bonus plans, pay them out more frequently than annually. And if you can vest it moving forward, people will do more to avoid a loss than to get a gain. So Ken, there you are. I think we're right at our hour we set aside. So
Yeah.
hopefully
It's
there's some
been-
ideas that are helpful.
Oh, it's fantastic, man. I've got stuff to talk about now for the next 2 months with our members. Yeah,
All
this
right.
is good. This is great. This is great. And listen, thank you so much. I know you got to go, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in June. And if this is any indication of what we're going to hear, damn, everybody ought to sign up and go because it's going to be great. Thank you so
Good.
much.
I look forward to seeing everybody. Thanks, Ken.
All right. Take care. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success. Bye.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.